This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Lots to get to as we welcome you into Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network. Alongside Jonathan Von Tobel, Stormy Bonantoni with you. We are live, as always, in downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. I will say, so I am shocked that you didn't bring up, I'm wearing a dress today, ladies and gentlemen, and JVT has repeatedly said that he doesn't believe that, like, I wear shorts or that I have legs or anything, so today is the day.
Well, I guess, yes. I mean, that's a weird way to open the show. But as we have discussed many times, you are, to me, nothing. So I
am an amorphous blob,
Yeah.
which I actually greatly appreciate.
Yeah.
You also, a moment ago, were looking at my makeup bag and found a contraption you thought was dangerous when
Yeah.
it is, in fact, just a felt tip pen. But
Yeah, I do not, what's the word I'm looking for? I enjoy being a dude.
Yeah.
I guess is what I'm going to say.
I don't blame you.
I do not have to deal with the societal pressures of making myself up every single day. I just put the same soap that I use for my body on my face and then scrub, shave, and then we go on.
yeah, your things that you deal with, security or insecurity-wise, are more like how many buttons are on the T-shirt today. Like just now, a moment ago, right before we came on air, you said, "Okay, are we good? Are we going to deep V?" I think you're
I thought
safe.
the V was a little aggressive today.
I think you're safe.
Here, there you go, as our audience wants to see.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. We got plenty of Major League Baseball that is already on our screens. Lots more to preview, but to set the table for everything we've got coming up over the course of the next 2 hours, time to run it down.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is The Rundown.
Summer League starts today. 7 games, 14 teams in action, including a matchup between this year's top 2 picks, AJ Debonsa and the Wizards, 2.5-point dogs to Darren Peterson and the Jazz. We will recap the teams to watch, the format, and of course some bets for today.
Yes, indeed. I am very excited. The second we're done here, I skedaddle down to the Thomas and Mack Center, pick up a cred, and guess what I'll be doing for the rest of the day? Watching basketball. So looking forward to it. I've got some local duties as well to adhere to, but I'm really excited. And, of course, the freak in me. Everybody looking forward to the nightcap later tonight in the NBA Summer League, and for very good reason. We're going to get to see the big boys, right? We're going to get to see Darren Peterson. We're going to get to see AJ Debonsa. But at 8 p.m., the Sacramento Kings take on the Los Angeles Clippers, and your boy will be, as the kids say, sacked for that one. Really looking forward to the Summer League card overall. And we can see some really interesting teams, too, including a couple that have a future on to win the whole thing.
I love that that's the game you're most excited for because, of course, you are. You also cashed your WNBA bet yesterday by the hook. We'll see if we can push it forward today. 3 more games in the W. But as we have been talking about the last couple of days, Big 12 Media Days rolling on. We got a couple more interesting sound bites from day 2 yesterday in Frisco. And could there be a Heisman sleeper potentially from this year's batch of Big 12 QBs? We'll discuss.
I mean, this is the best part about the Big 12. It doesn't really look as strong. There's a lot of parity as usual. Yeah. But as we were discussing this yesterday, I brought up the idea to you in our post-show meeting of, well, why don't we do the top Heisman candidates for the Big 12? And you looked at me so confused. You're like, are there any? It's a lot of long shots on the list.
But as we talked about when we previewed kind of big picture Heisman last week, this is an award that has actually fared pretty well for long shots in recent history.
But to your point, well, we won't spoil the whole thing, but it's just to put the Big 12 preseason player of the year is 250 to 1 to win the Heisman. Correct. It speaks to where we're at with the individual talent to an extent in the conference.
Also, we begin the World Cup quarterfinals today. Can Morocco find some magic? France, your overall favorite to win the World Cup. This should be their most difficult opponent so far. Rematch of 2022 in the semifinal in which France won 2-0. Our own Alex Blowers has a detailed breakdown at the website right now. He's going to join us in an hour to give his thoughts on the match and, of course, the weekend at large as the quarterfinals roll on. And Chris Vasilli from Covers.com going to do the same.
Yep, Alex brought out his nice shirt so he can come in studio with us to see what his 3 Lions will do and also this matchup today. He and I were sharing some texts. I think we feel very similar about his home country and their chances to win this whole thing. So we'll see what he feels about that and the rest of these games that we're going to have here in the, what are we already at? Quarterfinals?
Quarterfinals, yes. In terms of that first match coming up today, a couple injuries just to be aware of for Morocco. There was some hope to get their star midfielder Ismail Saibari back after suffering that hamstring injury after Canada. He will be out. Their head coach saying the match today just came too early in his healing process. So Soufiane Rahimi will step in to replace him. Did score in replacement of him in that match against Canada. He also said everyone will be available except for Saibari, which has led a lot to believe that Crystal Palace's Chadi Rayad will also be in the tournament back today after missing the last game. Meanwhile, for France, and bear with me again with some of these names, guys, I'm sorry. Aurélien Tchouameni, key member of the France midfield, he didn't play in that last match against Paraguay. He's going to be out once again today.
What's interesting is with all of this news, we at least see a little dip from where we were. When you look at the to qualify price, at least yesterday when we were talking about it, it was around minus 390. It's now minus 370 for France. So maybe it's a little bit of play on Morocco. But I think either way, we talk about this all the time with some of these moneyline sports where there might be inherent value in the probability the market is giving you. But, all right, the team that the market is saying has and I'm exaggerating here, 7% chance, actually has a 9% chance. So I'm going to play that and get that edge. But then ultimately you still need Morocco to do the unthinkable, at least by some, which would be to just upend France. But we've seen crazier things. We saw Egypt push Argentina, and we saw more. So maybe you can get an opportunity once the match begins to play it. But interesting to note a little bit of a 20-cent move in favor of Morocco here to qualify.
I contemplated both teams to score in this one, ended up only getting to the window on France's team total over, paid a little bit of juice to get there. They're averaging 2.7 goals per match to this point, all of the talent they have, and the expectation that they're going to win. I think we should get some goals here from the France side once again. How do you see it?
I think so. I mean, look, we've talked about this a lot when it comes to the potency of this French attack. I mean, there's not many offenses right now left in this field that are as dangerous as they have been. When you talk about touches in the opposing box, expected goals generated, goals per game, we can go down the list of all the offensive metrics for Les Bleus, and I think that there's really no matching that. So until we start to get to a point, and Morocco's been a fine defensive club, but until we get to the point where you reach some of these opponents that are somewhat on your level, I'm going to expect that they're going to be a threat to go over their team total almost every time. Now, we've seen a slow start against Senegal. We saw a 1-0 victory for them as well. But if you look at the actual metrics and the expected goals and what they're generating, this is a team that's going to be in position to get this done. And we haven't even talked about generating corners and set pieces and things like that. I'm
going to hope that the result for that last match in the round of 16 was the anomaly, and then we'll get back to the norm coming up tonight. Let's get into a little bit of baseball. We've got 5 games in action right now, still several more to come. But how about I'm going to call them your Tigers now. Yesterday, so you made, for anybody who missed Monday, call me crazy, but you were making the case for the Tigers to get back into the playoff picture. They have been awesome lately after what was a pretty abysmal May. How have you seen it?
Well, and this is, look, it's a minor pat yourself on the back moment for myself, I suppose. But remember, a couple of weeks ago, we also have the Red Sox to make the playoffs at 6-1 in pocket, too. And this has kind of been the theme of these two teams. And we will see if it comes to fruition. But I thought last night, and we're going to get this again because in 3 minutes we get first pitch for the Red Sox and the White Sox as well. But I just kind of think that these two teams mirror each other to an extent. You know, keep using the parameter of the two American League teams that are not in control of a wild card or a division spot. They are the only two that have a positive run differential, and that run differential is growing, and those wins are starting to grow for both teams. You mentioned the Tigers. Yesterday, they get all over Springs. They beat the Athletics 6-1 out there in Detroit. By the way, a quiet and very good story. Troy Melton, over his last 4 starts, has been absolutely untouchable. 0.76 ERA, an expected ERA of 1.72. He goes 5 1/3 yesterday, 4 hits, a walk, and strikes out 9. This is a Tigers team that is in absolutely fantastic form. Since the beginning of June, 20-12. They're 7-1 in their last 8 games, Stormy. And that price on them to make the playoffs, I think the first time, when we brought this up the other day, it was, I can't remember what exactly the price was, but I know that a couple of weeks ago it was in the range, if I remember correctly, about 12, 10-1, somewhere in that range. This team's down plus 290 to make the playoffs, and they continue to ascend. They are not that far out of the American League wildcard picture. As it sits, just 4 games out of the final spot, which the Texas Rangers control right now. Just ahead of them by a game, worth mentioning, the Red Sox. As they are on their own little bit of a run here, which has been incredible to watch as well. They beat up Davis Martin and the White Sox yesterday. Jake Bennett was great, but they've won 5 straight, 10-1 in their last 11. Yes, plus 270 on the Red Sox. So just think it's worth pointing out, look, this is a long season for a reason. These games do count, and I'm the biggest proponent of that. But you also, in a bad American League, that's been the theme of the entire season that we've been discussing, I think there's shots to take. That also means we'd have to find somewhere shots to take on to make the playoffs. And I know that I was watching a numbers game yesterday. Chris Felica, and I believe he invoked our buddy Will Hill, talking about the fact that they looked at maybe the Yankees to miss the playoffs. They currently lead the Rays 6-1.
Intriguing, as they have clearly hit a speed bump as well.
Speed bump? It sounds like they hit a wall the way they've been playing.
Considering the Red Sox kind of started that with that 4-game sweep. And I will say, on this date last year, the Cleveland Guardians, if you remember, had just an 8.5% chance of making the playoffs. They went on to win the AL Central. Both of these teams are actually in a better position than Cleveland was at this point a year ago. You mentioned that 20-12 for the Tigers, by the way, since the beginning of June. That's the best record of any team in the American League after a 6-22 month that, of course, is going to set you back. So if they can play more like this team, and you've called it several times, very streaky sport. If the All-Star break I just hope the All-Star break doesn't come at a bad time for them since they've started to figure this thing out, because they would like to keep Tarek Skubal, right? They don't want to have to be in a position to move off of him.
Man, when a week will change anything in Major League Baseball. I mean, when we had brought up the Red Sox for the first time, that was one of the things we had discussed was, hey, look, man, a week changes everything, and they go on a 4-game winning streak, and they sweep the Yankees in a 4-game set, and you're probably thinking, all right, now we're only like 4.5 games out. That is a result that you can get to.
Real quickly, last 90 seconds, do you have anything in this Red Sox-White Sox game that's about to get underway? More Sox-on-Sox crime here coming up in the next few minutes?
Put them on one at a time, but I would just say that I just rooting for the the Red Sox, Freudian slip every single day as we're sitting on this price for them to make the playoffs. But I do think that this is going to be an interesting start. Patrick Sandoval is going to get this outing. We have not seen him since 2024. Former Angel. Come on now. That's it. That's all I got.
I was going to go UNLV.
No, come on now. Well, you're on the right track. It's one of two options almost every single time when it comes to the.
And I'm never going to be right. Can we just set the record straight on that one?
Yep.
Every time you set me up for it, whatever guess my brain goes, that's going to be the wrong route.
You can
every single time.
Anthony Kay, 84 innings so far, over 18 appearances, 16 starts for the White Sox. Has not pitched particularly well. 4.29 ERA, 4.94 on the expected. And the last time we saw him out on a mound, it was solid. 4 innings, 1 earned run. He hasn't really gone deep in his last 2, 7 2/3 over his last 2 outings.
Yeah, so Chicago slight favorite here with K on the hill, -114 that price. Boston -105. Run total sitting 9. A little bit of juice on the over, but not much. And while Boston has been great, the White Sox slipping a bit, dropped 4 of their last 6. We're going to talk more MLB when we return, but we are just getting started here on Money Moves. Keep it locked right here. VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools. But what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Money Moves, Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. Yes, we're going to get back to Major League Baseball in a second, but I know how much you love to be upset about hockey things for the sake of it. And so I thought you would like what's been kind of going viral in the last 24 hours since the Carolina Hurricanes shared the photo of the engraving of all. I mean, that's what everybody waits for in hockey, right? Is the opportunity to lift the cup and to have your name engraved on it for history. And when you looked at the photo, what stood out to you?
So I want to address your first point, if I could, really quickly. I think that I, despite some of our audience's thoughts on myself, am very consistent with a lot of different things. And I am very pro the people, okay? The people matter. And whether that's the people who are out in the streets cheering for their teams, like I was very anti-celeb row when it came to these Knicks games, all right? These loser celebrities drove up the prices for these games so that the common man who was out there in the bodega couldn't go in and enjoy their team. They were the absolute worst. They sucked. They made it awful, okay? So I am pro the people. And that extends out to the people that make things work. I love our crew behind the scenes. They do a tremendous job. They're the reason why we do what we do. We stand upon their backs for glory, okay? And they never get the honor they deserve. And so when you get a trophy, like the Stanley Cup, who's supposed to honor the hard work of the players who win a championship, those are the people that should be honored. And if you were to stray from the norm of maybe not listing just the players, I would assume it's staffers, equipment folks, trainers, not the rich-ass owner and his family who did nothing but sit in the boxes and, by the way, have underpaid their great coach in Rod the Bod Brindamore. This is insane that Dundon has done this. I hate this dude. He's already ruining what's going on with the Trailblazers. Now he's done this. I will defend you, hockey fans. This is asinine. I cannot believe I'm looking at this.
So that's honestly the key reason why I thought it would be funny to bring up with you specifically, because of all of the backlash that there's already been about him taking over ownership of the Portland Trailblazers. But 100%. And this isn't unprecedented. It has happened before. I think even last year, the Florida Panthers owner added some of his family to it. The most famous one was back in the 80s. The Edmonton Oilers owner had I think it was his father who was put on it, and then famously had his name X'd out later.
Okay.
And so there's layers to this thing. But this one in particular, because yes, it is each member, it is his wife and all of his children, including his youngest child, who I think is in preschool. She's like 5 years old. On the Stanley Cup is asinine.
Screw that kid.
But I guess you do you. That said, just a funny hockey wrinkle here. Congrats again to the Carolina Hurricanes on winning their first Stanley Cup in 20 years. Let's get into more Major League Baseball. We've got a handful of games in action as we speak right now, but still plenty more to come later on in the evening. Where do you want to start?
All right, let's go to Seattle. We're going to get this at 3:40. Their series on the road against Miami continues. Bryce Miller's going to get the start against one of the better names in baseball, especially for a pitcher. Jansen Junk will oppose him here. Miller's been absolutely incredible. And in fact, go and check it out, Pod to the Futures, wherever you get your podcast. Mitch brought Miller up as a potential for a Cy Young candidacy. He's not qualified yet, I believe. Only pitched 52 2/3, made 9 appearances, 8 of them starts. But my man has been untouchable. 171 ERA, a 210 on the expected. You look at recent form, too. I mean, he's only had a few starts, so it's not like there's really many spots for blemishes. But this dude's been unreal. Coming off of 7 innings against my Angels, in which he blanked them the entire way. 2 hits, 8 strikeouts, no walks. And in fact, what a wrinkle here. Bryce Miller has not given up a walk in his last 4 starts. The command has been immaculate. So you do wonder, if you look at this pricing, only minus 120 thereabouts on the road against the against the Marlins. These two teams shouldn't play, by the way. I always get their names mixed up when they play one another. But the whole point here is Bryce Miller, I'll take the low-hanging fruit. I think it seems somewhat cheap that I'm only laying $120 with him the way that he has been throwing the baseball. Now, the Mariners have not really been in great form. We've talked about them. The fact that they just kind of refused to pull away in the American League West. They can potentially do that and have plenty of time to do that. But I do think the Mariners can get this done, snap their 2-game losing streak, and get a victory here today.
It's the fish and the fisherman.
That's right.
Or I guess a mariner is technically just a sailor, so it's implied that they fish, but are they actually fishermen?
I mean, one would assume there is some fishing in some form, considering that you cannot have longevity on the sea without taking from the bountiful Mother Earth.
Beautiful. I did contemplate Miller K prop because it's only 5.5, and I know the Marlins are obviously very good offensively, but they're out of the top 10 in strikeouts, so I thought maybe that could be an angle considering the K numbers that we've seen from Miller to this point, 7+ strikeouts in 5 straight, gone over this prop in all but 2 games all year. That was an angle I looked at. It was just juiced a little bit too high, minus 141. If you're somebody who doesn't mind laying those prices or you want to look to an alt, that could be an angle too.
Yeah, and it's also worth mentioning that Junk, we have not seen him since the end of May. So this is the first start back since.
Sorry. I was looking at how he was listed. It was shin bone inflammation. He took a comebacker off the leg, but shin bone inflammation is how it's termed in the injury logs.
Yeah, and also inflamed, whereas his ERA in the last few starts. I mean, you look at it before he went out, 4 earned runs, 7 earned runs, 8 earned runs, got blasted by your Braves before calming down in a start on the road against Toronto, and then he obviously got injured. So I think that's going to be an odd start. You can make the case that Junk actually has been pitching relatively better than his ERA. 404 expected, 412 FIP. There's some stuff there that I think he's somewhat manageable. And for a lineup that has been, kind of up and down all over the place at times, I wouldn't be surprised if we got like a first 5 under if Miller delivers and Junk is kind of working his way around a lineup that has been sputtering at times.
So last segment, we talked about a couple of teams in the Tigers and Red Sox who had fallen apart but are getting on the right track if they could be teams that could make the postseason. What about a team that started off hot, first place in mid-May, and have fallen off? Could they get back on the right track? The San Diego Padres, who are 17-28 since May 19th. That has not been good, even had a stretch of losing 8 in a row.
What's the run differential in that
Have
time?
bounced back. Hold on. Have bounced back, winning 3 of the last 4, including one against the Dodgers to avoid getting swept there. Today, they're favored once again with Griffin Canning on the hill. Diamondbacks starting with Merrill Kelly, total sitting 9. But is this a team, you think, that maybe the All-Star break could be the reset they need to get back on track?
I think that any answer other than yes will get you mad at me. So I will say yes, sure, why not?
What about today? Any thoughts?
I mean, I just wonder if their offense is ever going to start to find some consistency. That's been their big problem, right?
And they've got all these big names, so they should.
But coming into today, they're 28th in weighted runs created plus. The offense really just has not been there. And then the question becomes Griffin Canning, former Angel? Yeah, there we go.
Finally.
Over his last 2 starts has been a little bit better. And in fact, you zoom out, 3 out of his last 4, he's given up 2 earned runs or fewer. But Canning hasn't really been one to give you length. Like, even in these 4 starts that we're talking about, hasn't pitched more than 4 1/3 in those outings, too. So even if you want to whittle it down to expecting some sort of positive regression for Canning and thinking that maybe he has found some sort of rejuvenation over the last 4 starts or so, you're probably not even comfortable playing a first 5, only because he might not give you all 5. And you look over the stretch that we're talking about, a 5.40 ERA when he has shown improvement, but a 3.72 fielding independent. Like, there's some numbers there that would indicate that maybe he'll give you a fighting chance today.
Anything else you like today?
Let's see. Today, there's not that much. I mean, let's go to Angels and Rangers because I do think this is a pretty interesting matchup. First off, the Rangers, we definitely liked them because there's a couple of futures we have out on the air. I don't think my Royals to win the American League for before the season started is going to get there.
Not looking good.
Just going to go out on a limb. But I got a bunch of, as Adam Burke and I both share love for many different things, including the Texas Rangers, do have AOS, do have American League, so still holding out hope. And they're only a half game out, have been playing a little bit better. But they're going to go out there to take on the Angels. How about yesterday? The Halos coming to play. 13-1 win for the Anaheim Angels. And don't look now, but right after I sell the farm, Joe Adell comes to play. 2 for 4 yesterday, 5 ribbies, 2 home runs. I'm a fire sale on my fantasy baseball team. It's not going well. But I got Joe Adell from Mitch Moss as part of the fire sale. Whole point here being, though, is that it's a pretty interesting pitching matchup between these two. Nate Eovaldi has been a dude that you talk about whatever cliche you want, regression monster chasing or trying to catch the falling knife. Haven't really gotten there with him. He shows like little signs here and there, Stormy, but for the most part, he's giving you about 3 earned runs over the course of 5 to 6 innings every time out. You get these little flashes on the road against Toronto, goes 7, strikes out 9, and that's the old Eovaldi. And I think that maybe you look at that against the Angels and Reed Detmers, I think you can make a case for like a $130, and especially at Circa, which is just under that price at a -129. I think the Rangers can bounce back against Detmers, but it's also a low total, and I would agree with the market too. We saw this open some spots 7.5. I think 7. I think Detmers can go out there and give them a good performance too, but slight leading toward Eovaldi in the Angels.
Okay. I will say, Detmers has probably pitched a little bit better than the 4.11 ERA would indicate. Good reminder though, as we are in the off season, and yes, we're talking a lot of day baseball. We're also previewing football season. College football and the NFL will be here before you know it. And with that, it is also contest season at Circa Resort and Casino. If you haven't checked out Winner Circle Proxy, you need to. Winner Circle Proxy and VSiN are giving away 2 great prize packages this offseason to put 2 lucky fans in the world's biggest football contest here at Circa for free. One winner gets a $1,000 entry into Circa Survivor. Another gets a $1,000 entry into Circa Million, which is the 5 against the spread picks each week contest. Both winners also getting a full season of Winner Circle Proxy services, a VSiN studio tour. Come see what JVT looks like in person. Is he really that tall? And a free month of VSiN Pro. Enter by Sunday, August 2nd for your chance to win. Head over to winnercircleproxy.com/VSiN. That's winnercircleproxy.com/VSIN. Need to enter again by August 2nd.
I don't think I'm that tall.
I get you're bigger in person, which I try to take that as they mean taller, right?
Check your Twitter.
Okay, we got to step aside here on Money Moves. Stick around. When we return, turning our attention to the NBA, Vegas Hoops is set to tip off in just over an hour as Summer League gets underway. We're breaking it all down next.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
20 leagues, one mission. Just Win Bets, baby, is your premier source for daily sports betting picks. They're breaking down the data so you can bet with confidence across the entire sports calendar. Scan the QR code on your screen or head over to justwinbetsbaby.com for our radio audience today and start betting smarter with Just Win Bets, baby. That's Just Win Bets, baby. The name says it all. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you back here on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. I was laughing real quickly because you told me to check my Twitter, and we'll get to that in a moment. But while I was there, I also found a tweet from Jonathan Jones of CBS, great NFL insider reporter. He actually tweeted about the Carolina Hurricanes engraving.
Oh, boy.
He said, we all remember that incredible playoff run where the 7 Dundons scored in pivotal moments. Glad they're memorialized for their top-tier contributions.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like the epitome
funny.
of just crappy rich dude. Like, that is Dundon.
It is wild.
And I guess it doesn't matter.
You only get so many spots, and either way, yeah, it's your team. You get to do what you want with it. That's the end of the day.
You know, I never root for the end of civilization, but I will say I now cannot wait till a billion years from now when the sun eventually explodes and turns this planet into dust, just because then the Stanley Cup will be destroyed and so will that ring.
Someone's like, Nystrom played 38 games and can't get engraved. Like all these different things. Anyways, the other tweet, though, that came our direction was actually coincidentally when I was talking about height. Derek Gwynn tweeted at us, and I didn't see this earlier, said, how tall is Stormy? I saw an Instagram post about a pair of pants and how they wouldn't go over her shins. Yes, I did. On Instagram yesterday, it was like I was trying to get some outfits for football season, and I saw this like matching set that I liked, and I always have to check the inseam on things, and it said like 31 and a half. No shot. Do you have to deal with that at all, or you have short legs?
Well, male pant sizes are just like the waist and the
You don't
length.
look at inseams?
I don't know what an inseam is. I just know that the pants are 2 numbers, and I know what my numbers are.
It's your leg length.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's what male jeans are like. I'm a 36-30. So
a 30 and a half inseam would fit you.
I guess I don't know.
That's wild business.
But I think 30 is measured from the outside, like top down.
No, it's not.
Okay. Then why are you asking me questions that you know the answer to?
That's not what an inseam is. Anyways, I'm only 5'10". You told him that I'm 6'5", but I'm only 5'10" in reality. Let's get into a little basketball conversation here. We did get another update in the LeBron saga, and I feel like we will be having these every day until he actually decides to announce where he's going to go. And I use that verbiage because a lot of the reports are that he knows where he's going to go. He just hasn't told anybody yet. That said, 76ers president Bob Myers made his pitch for Philly on the Game Over podcast with Max Kellerman and Rich Paul.
If he was here, I'd say I honestly believe this is your best chance to win. You have to decide all the other things that are equally important because it's his life, right? He has to play. He has to face the scrutiny of his decision. That'll half people will say you should have done this or should have done that, and they'll criticize him for whatever, which is his life. So he's been through all that. What I would just say is, if it's about winning, and that let's talk about this team because you can win here in Philadelphia.
So I understand that. But hasn't the whole thing been it's not just about winning, though? It's about happiness. It's a happiness-led decision. Would he be happy living in and being in Philly? What do you think?
I mean, I don't want to – our producer's from Philadelphia, so I don't want to really ruffle any feathers. You get to park in the middle of the street, right, Justin? That's a really good thing that you can do out there in Philadelphia. And it's really cold. Shocking, too, by the way, breaking news. Philadelphia 76ers president thinks the 76ers can win the championship. Look, I don't know where he's going to go. I think that I go back to what we've hit on a couple of times, which is, to your point about, happiness and championship equity and how those two things tie together. Yeah. Cleveland does seem to make the most sense. Every report has tied him to Cleveland for the most part instead of outright saying he will go. It's just that everything is pointing in that direction. Market doesn't really seem to buy it. The Heat are starting to pick up steam, which I don't know if that's going to be the case. One of the things that has been thrown out there is the development of Bronny James. So go to Miami, they can help develop Bronny as well. I think at the end of the day, he's probably going to drag this out, maybe during Summer League, because that's when the basketball convention happens and everybody's together out here in Las Vegas, so you might get some news there.
There's a Clutch Sports party tonight.
Where at?
At the Wynn.
You want to go crash it?
Let's go. I mean, I have an invite, but...
Do you really? Do you really?
That's the only reason I know that it's happening.
You're lying.
I swear.
How are you burying that? Then you're going to go, right?
I was not, no.
What are you talking about? This is journalistic
We can talk
integrity.
about this later. I was not. I have other things that I was going to do tonight, yeah.
Are we serious right now? Justin, you can find out.
No, I can't. No one's going to talk to me.
Okay, anyway. Either way, I don't know where he's going to go, but I do still think I'd probably say Cleveland given the information that's out there.
Minus 150 on FanDuel, the price for LeBron to go there. If you're looking at some of the trade markets, 46 and 45% respectively on Polymarket and Call Sheet to go to the Cavs. The Heat plus 550, Golden State 5-1, 76ers your longest shot among the group, 12% and 14% on the.
Got a +1 on that?
Got a what?
You got a +1 on that invitation?
I can check.
Dude, come on.
What
are we doing? What are we doing?
Speaking of Summer League, let's get to that real quickly because, as I mentioned off the top, we got 7 games coming up today. The one I think most eyes will be on, I know if I were to watch a game today and I could only pick one, that would be the one that I would watch. Is
you
the
and
Jazz
all the other
Wizards
normies. Yeah.
Going head-to-head. Darren Peterson, AJ Debonsa, Mano Imano. How do you see it?
Well, I think that knowing what I know about both of these teams, I would say that it would be Utah or nothing, just given the upside of the talent for the Jazz. If everybody everybody on the roster is going to play. For Washington, it's a team that's got some interesting pieces, but I just don't know exactly how it all kind of comes together. There's some names that you would recognize. Obviously, we're waiting to see what A.J. Debonsa is going to look like. Trey Johnson is on this roster as well. But outside of that, I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of the stuff that they have here. And they don't really have all of the indicators of a roster that I'm generally looking for. When we're talking about the high-end lottery talent, well, we've got it in Debonsa. Second-year guys, I mean, again, you've got Johnson, and there's a couple of guys that have some years under their belts, but nothing really crazy in terms of playing high-level or decent basketball over the last couple of years. And then, like, the long-term journeymen as well, they don't really have them. So I do think that the Utah Jazz are very much clearly the better team, and I can understand why when you look at the way that this is getting priced. It's getting bet up. Some spots opened that the Jazz is a very slight favorite, maybe even a small dog, but we're up to 2.5. To me, it would be Utah or nothing here, just given what we know about the collection of talent that the Jazz are going to put out there. And especially in a game like this, Stormy, where, again, I don't have any evidence to back this up, but I would assume the NBA is telling these folks, look, first game, prime time, everybody's going to be there. For those who have not been to a game like this at the Summer League, I am telling you, it is packed. Like, every single person is there. Executives are milling around the floor. Like, everybody's there for that nightcap between the top prospects almost every single time. And I'm sure the NBA wants everybody's best foot forward on this one. So I would assume that we're getting the depth of the good pieces on this Jazz roster tonight.
Well, speaking of the first game, the actual first game is coming up in just under an hour. The Timberwolves and Pelicans, 4.5-point spread on that one in favor of Minnesota. Total 176.5. Anything in particular people should know?
No, I mean, it's kind of surprising when you see some of the movement too, right? It's like the market kind of understands what's going on. Minnesota was bet up from 1.5-point favorite to a 4.5-point favorite. So clearly the betting market likes what it sees at the very least when it comes to this Timberwolves roster. And there's a lot here that you can potentially like. I'm really interested in seeing a couple of these guys, and not even just like journeymen, but some college players you're really familiar with. Maybe not blue chip prospects, but we get Trey Kaufman-Renn on the Minnesota Timberwolves roster. Aiden Mahaney is on the Timberwolves roster as well. Former UNLV player Donovan Williams. You get Jalen Williams, who's played some time over at Auburn as well. So there are some really interesting pieces here. DeJuan Harris from Kansas. So I do like the collection of talent that Minnesota has. And the Pelicans are one that I haven't really had a good read on with the way that their roster looks. Not a lot of the big players that you thought maybe were going to be there, like second-year guys. But I will say there are some interesting front court pieces. Nathan Mensah is going to be on this roster, former Aztec. Hunter Dickinson is playing with the Pelicans as well, so you get some upside there. And then Summer League stalwart, who I asked his team last year to make it to the playoffs and win it all, and they went undefeated and ultimately couldn't get into the playoffs. But Kobe Buffkin's going to be out there too. He's been in the league for a couple of years and has played some basketball as well. So I think there's some upside with some of the key pieces, but for the most part, I think if you're evaluating the roster in terms of balance and overall talent, give the edge to Minnesota. I don't know if you're up to 4.5, though, considering we don't really know much about these teams.
Do you want to recap the last 90 seconds here, some of your Summer League futures for inquiring minds?
Yeah, so I've got 3 things for the NBA Summer League, and this is to win the NBA Summer League. Again, remember, you play 4 games, and then you get into the playoffs. Tiebreakers are head-to-head, then point differentials, so these things are going to matter. But played 4 of them. Short shot, Grizzlies 7-1. It's just kind of self-explanatory. This Grizzlies roster is really good. I am a big Cam Boozer fan. I think when you look at the overall depth, I wanted to take a shot on one short piece, and this was going to be it. Cedric Howard's on the roster, but I would expect maybe he doesn't really play that much. But again, remember, you'll see some names on these rosters, but you have to include them on the Summer League roster if you want them to practice. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to play. So keep that in mind with a guy like Howard. But there are some other interesting pieces here that are included. So I think that the overall depth and the talent for this Grizzlies roster is pretty solid, especially if you get like a guy like Olivier Maxence Prosper out there for a while. So Grizzlies, the short shot. Also took a piece for the second straight year. We will go back to it, and we'll go with the Atlanta Hawks at 20-1. Again, evaluating what they have. A lot of what I like about the Hawks kind of built into their defensive backcourt. Kingston Flemings and wow, why am I blanking on the former Iowa State guard who I really like? Keyshawn Gilbert, who is going to be out there as well, along with some other pieces that they have, Zuby Ejiofor and others. So really like them. Jacob Toppin's on the roster. And last but not least, I laugh because this is just a total shot in the dark. This is, I think, just doing the math really quickly, the oldest Summer League roster. Give me the Orlando Magic at 25-1. That includes Cam Reddish, who has played 6 years in the NBA.
Love it.
But I do think you get some old guys on here, some physically mature bodies, and some talent. So let's go 25-1 Magic.
In addition to the Grizzlies, it is they and the Jazz that are co-favorites at the top of the board. Reminder, if you head over to JVT's Twitter, @MeJVT, he's got a Google Doc pinned for all of the Summer League rosters.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
along this summer as we are officially now getting set for college football. Big 12 Media Days kind of kicking it all off. And as we go through all of the major power conferences, we'll play tons of sound as we have the last 24 hours. More sound coming out of Big 12 Media Days out there in Frisco, Texas yesterday. As we welcome you back here to Money Moves, Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. One team and player in particular that you and I were very high on going into last year was Devin Dampier over at Utah. Head coach Morgan Scalley had this to say about his QB1.
Well, Devin played a lot of last year, not 100%. Sports hernia, but that just goes to show how competitive he is and how tough he is. I'm excited to see him play at full strength again. And also has got tremendous development from Ryan Gunderson, our quarterback coach, as well as Kevin McGivern. When your best players are your best leaders and your hardest workers, you've got something going for you. And he is one of the best. This guy works his tail off. He understands that he's got deficiencies that he's trying to improve, and he works tirelessly to improve them. So cannot wait for the season that he's about to have.
So he mentioned the sports hernia. Dampier suffered that in week 3. Also dealt with lingering ankle and lower leg injuries throughout the course of the season. They still had a great season for what it's worth. 10-2 in the regular season, end up beating Nebraska in the Las Vegas Bowl out here as well, but not enough, right, to get where they wanted. They were a field goal away from winning at BYU in the Holy War and having a spot to play in the Big 12 championship, but didn't get to do that in Kyle Whittingham's last year.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a question because I was reading on Utah yesterday when we were getting ready for some Big 12 stuff. Maybe it was the day before. But the whole point here was about Dampier. And one of the things that was noted about the offensive staff and Dampier as one of the goals this year was to get him ready for the NFL. And so that meant more things and more responsibilities at the line of scrimmage, checking plays, doing things differently than he was used to. Does that worry you at all?
Not particularly.
Okay.
And a big reason for that is even though Jason Beck is gone, and with Kyle Whittingham going to Michigan, he took Jason Beck with him, and that was the thing that brought Devin Dampier over to Utah, right, was the fact that they had that relationship from Mexico. Kevin McGivern, who's the new offensive coordinator, is also a part of that same tree. Even though there are little tweaks I think they want to make him more prepared for the pro level, he still wants to do a lot of the same stuff of like spread, RPO, let Devin get out and scramble around, do what he needs to do. Plus, there's also going to be a package for Bird Ficklin that I think is going to be pretty important for Utah this year as well. And the fact that they were able to keep both of them, I think is great. Their goal at the end of the day, as much as they want to grow and develop Devin Dampier to be ready for the next level, is to win a Big 12 championship.
Yeah, the Ficklin thing's really interesting because did he have 10 touchdowns last year? I mean, somewhere.
I don't remember how many it was, but he was awesome.
Yeah, and to your point about it as a package and what they're going to use, they're going to have some versatility. Quarterback depth, interestingly enough, we always talk about it in case the quarterback gets hurt, and this matters because Dampier's missed some time, but more in general for the Utah, they're going to do their best to get both of them out there at times.
10 rushing, 3 passing.
Yeah, okay, so you had 13 total touchdowns. So, yeah, I'm with you in that the upside of Utah is really, really strong, and I feel like I want to get back on the horse. Even the game, was it Texas Tech, the first one that they ended up losing pretty badly? And what did we find out afterward? That he had injured his ankle that week, wasn't it, before, and that we did not know about it? So even then, I feel like I want to go back and go, you know what, no, maybe I was right about Dampier with Heisman and Utah as a national title contender. He just got hurt, and they didn't tell us about it, and then they looked their worst against the best team in the conference. I still think this team's got a lot going for it, and Whittingham is a loss as a coach, but you retain so much from previous staffs and whatnot that I think you're pretty good.
Let's look to the Arizona Wildcats, another team that I think people forget actually had a sneaky awesome season last year. Head coach Brent Brennan spoke about the urgency and mentality that they need to have late in games in the Big 12.
I think the biggest thing is trying to get your team to understand that all of these games are decided in the last 8 minutes in this conference and that everybody's good enough to whoop you. And so if you don't show up on a Saturday, you're not going to like how it goes. You know what I mean? And so I think that part of it, like, you have to teach that. It's not something that's inherent to young people because they're just like, oh, we're going to line up and win every game. They all, that's how they think. They're like, no, every league or every game in this league is an absolute battle. High-level coaching, high-level talent, high-level teams, venues are tough. So all those things add up. And so trying to get your team to understand that all these games are going late in the game. They're not decided in the first half. So get ready, bear down, and get ready to fight because it's coming.
So this is a soundbite I picked from Brennan specifically because when you do look at how things played out for Arizona a season ago, 2 of the 3 regular season losses they had were decided by one score. BYU goes to double overtime, and then they lose to Houston on the last play of the game. That happened in back-to-back weeks. Only game that they decidedly lost was at Iowa State in week 4 when Iowa State was still good, right? Like, that was still the Cyclones we thought could make a Big 12 title run. That said, they also didn't play Texas Tech, Utah, or ASU last year. So I was looking at their schedule this year because if that's something that they can build off of, they have a tougher schedule this season.
A little bit.
The Big 12 season opens at BYU September 12th. You have to go on the road to face Texas Tech as part of what is a really challenging 4-week set. At Texas Tech, TCU, Utah, and Kansas State at the end of the season. You also have West Virginia, which is going to be a more difficult and dangerous test this year. You host ASU at the end of the year for the Territorial Cup, and who knows what that could be. You avoid Houston this time around, and you do get to play Iowa State, who's going to be a much lesser than version of themselves. But that note from Brennan, I think, is going to be critical for this team because there's a lot of reason to like what they have. They got a ton of talent coming back, led by Noah Fafita. There's a lot to like about Arizona, but those little things are going to be huge.
Yeah, I don't know if I would run to the window to bet their win total over, but in some of these games where they have to take on some of the big boys, I'm a big Fafita guy. You look at the way that he has gotten better throughout his career. He's, I don't think it's hyperbole to say, one of the better quarterbacks in college football, not just in the Big 12. He has been really, really good.
We'll talk about him more later.
Yeah, and coming off a year in which he threw for 29 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. I do think that going into this, which is going to be his 5th year in total, that I wouldn't be surprised if we find him in some of these road games against some of the big conference contenders, really pushing them, considering how good Fafita can be. And I'll say I've come around on Brennan a little bit more.
Yeah.
I was very hard on him, and I know he failed the biggest effing comeback in school history, whatever he called it, but I do think that this is a team that's shown some upside, and I think he's shown some improvement somewhat as a coach.
Well, I think it says a lot about him, too, that Fafita is someone that could have gone other places several times. Yeah, could have followed Jedd Fisch to Washington, but kept him around. Even after the 2 down years, still got him a hire at offensive coordinator in Daggy that he is really, really bonded with and had another breakout season again last season. So trying to build on that. Like I said, we'll talk more about Fafita a little bit later on, but this is a team that the schedule makes it tough. But if you think that they can win some of those coin flip games, 18-1, 6th in the league on the odds board to win the conference, 10-1 to make the college football playoff. Okay, one more soundbite I want to play here because I was a little bit stunned at Avery Johnson admitting this. But here is the Kansas State quarterback.
Us not focusing enough in the winter and the spring and the summer kind of came back and bit us in the butt when the season rolled around. And we were so focused on Big 12 championship and this, that, and the other. When you start whatever we were, 1-3 or however bad it was to start the season, and then it's like, oh, well, all that work we did in the offseason was to win a Big 12 championship. And now I don't even think with 3 losses we can even be in a Big 12 championship. Then it kind of it's like you put all your eggs in one basket and all your morals and things are all in the wrong place. So I think just the culture that Coach Klein has brought back on, hey, it's a 1-week season. All the little things matter. Little details matter. How you do one thing is how you do everything. Can't take days off. Can't slack. Like stuff like that.
So the reason I found that so interesting, because he's right, like they started the season 1-3, 2-4 the first half of the season, and all of the expectations you had about a Big 12 title were out the door. What felt like, honestly, week 1 in Ireland with the loss to Iowa State. And he kept going on that answer, and I know he meant it to be complimentary about Colin Klein and what their relationship is like. Optimus Klein.
Thank you.
But it came off as like the previous regime and Coach Kleiman, who has been a great coach forever and who's still a part of the staff, by the way, in a consulting role, didn't do their job.
I mean, what if he's right, though?
Sure. I mean, that's entirely possible. I know.
No skin off his back because that guy's gone. I mean, and if that's a real criticism of it, then I think that's pretty fair to say. And I mean, look, they got off to the rough start that many people expected was not going to happen. So I think there is something to the disappointment where whether or not they were taking it seriously or to what degree, it's pretty refreshing to hear that maybe they actually can admit to that and then come back with a talented team, but a talented team that's got a really easy schedule in front of them.
Yes.
And take advantage of that.
I think that's the reason. If you are looking at Kansas State and trying to buy in on them, the reason that you are most excited is a combination of the fact that you have a head coach that is going to or should get the most out of Avery Johnson and a schedule that is extremely winnable to put yourself in a position to contend for a Big 12 title this year. Despite the big dogs at the top, you could see that feeding frenzy like we used to have in the Pac-12, right? Where like we had all these high expectations for all these teams, but inevitably they're going to pick each other off. Kansas State doesn't really play a lot of those guys.
No.
So with the exception of Arizona late in the season and Houston midway through, there's a lot of opportunity for them on this schedule. We'll talk more Big 12 a little bit later on. Avery Johnson, Devin Dampier, and Noah Fafita a little bit more for a different reason later on in the show. But when we come back here on Money Moves, getting into the World Cup, Alex Blowers is going to join us in studio. Is that good? Did I do a good?
You did.
There we go. I'm excited. Talking World Cup, we'll get his pick for tonight's France-Morocco game and looking ahead to the entire weekend. Stick around.